Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fresh Outlook. I am your host, Logan Crawford. The last man standing is Donald Trump. A day after a resounding victory in Indiana, Cruz dropped out. The next day, Kasich called it quits, too. So now the presumptive GOP nominee for president of the United States is the billionaire businessman from New York. On the Democratic side, however, they're having trouble unifying. What about that? Hillary lost in Indiana. She still fights it out with Bernie. She fights for another day at least. Let's say hello to our panel of experts. I'm joined today by Alain Sanders, political science professor at St. Peter's University, Dr. Jackie Guzda, media professor at Western Connecticut State University, Tom LaVecchia, publisher at New Theory magazine, and joining us live via Skype is Rich Rubino, political commentator, prognosticator, and blogger. Before we get to our guests, about 7-8 months ago, back in November, when everybody was saying Jeb Bush was the man and Donald Trump had no chance, a brilliant man came on this show on a bad hair day and made this prediction. Take a listen. I disagree. I think it is the year of the outsider for the GOP. There's no way Bush is going to be the candidate. Mark my words, no way Bush will be the candidate. I actually think it's going to be Trump. I really do. We will see.
There's a steak dinner riding on this. We're on
steak dinner.
This is good.
Peter Luger's in Brooklyn. You and I are there. Okay, and I think Alan said that we could all come along, so we'll bring the whole panel when Uhuro brings us out to dinner to celebrate Donald Trump's victory, although I don't think he'll be celebrating. Let's turn to Rich Rubino, joining us live from Massachusetts via Skype. What do you think of my prediction back in November 2015? That was bold, Rich, right?
It was pure genius. It was genius. I think you have some sort of a psychic ability. I think it's what it is because, most prognosticators, you listen to David Brooks, you listen to a lot of them, they certainly were not saying this. But what I think you perhaps saw and a lot of other commentators missed is that there's really, in the Republican Party, there's really a schism between traditional conservatism, center-right conservatism of Paul Ryan, of George W. Bush, the idea of an interventionist foreign policy, the idea of free trade, the idea that there should be some sort of partial privatization of entitlements. But Donald Trump's brand of conservatism, and it's populist and it's blue collar, says essentially that free trade is not working. That it's basically economic nationalism, which really plays well, particularly now in the Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, where you see a lot of hemorrhaging of manufacturing jobs. It's non-interventionist. It says, why do we continue intervening in all these wars? Why are we in Iraq? I mean, Trump said to stabilize the Middle East, and it's essentially anti-populist in terms of being against the bankers, being against Goldman Sachs in many respects. It's really a new line of conservatism. I think you're seeing the same thing like you saw in around 1896 when you had the traditional conservative Democrats and you had the bimetallism, William Jennings Bryan bloodline under the party. And I think that's what you saw.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll be back to you in just a little bit. Tom, my take on this is you've got a guy with a very popular TV show who's on camera all the time, who doesn't make speeches with pregnant pauses. He talks to people, and that's the difference. Listening to a Donald Trump speech isn't listening to a Donald Trump speech, it's listening to a talk.
That's correct. So basically the reason why he's going to win the nomination for the Republican side is he also, how do I say this? He resonates with both young people, right, that are disenfranchised, but as well as blue collar folks, as well as the wealthy, because he's wealthy as well. But he was the only one to really kind of corral the whole group together through consistent messaging, and he's been consistent from the beginning. He's been off the cuff, he's been straightforward, and resonated with voters.
Absolutely. And Alan, you've been saying this from the start, that Donald Trump is not very different, really, from Bernie Sanders. Expound on that a little bit.
Well, he's not really different because he's playing on the discontent of ordinary Americans. So within the Republican echo chamber, you've got a lot of people who have been hit hard by manufacturing moving overseas. You've had a lot of people who have been hit hard and cannot make it economically. So he's resonating with those people on the right who have been hurt by the policies of globalism. But on the left, you also have people who have been hurt by the policies of globalism. You've been hurt by people who can't get ahead. You've been hurt if you're a young person, you can't get a job. You basically have to sign up for slave labor, which is called an internship, if you want to get ahead. And so you've got people on both ends of the spectrum, whether they come from the right or from the left, who feel they've been left out by the economy. So Donald Trump has started out, I mean, I think it's a lucky streak. I don't think it's genius at all. I think he didn't know what he's doing. I still think he doesn't know what he's doing. If you listen to his latest economic proposals, he's playing it by ear. Nonetheless, he hit a lucky streak, and he resonated with people who have felt left out the same way that Bernie Sanders has hit with people who feel left out.
Okay, I don't want to be sexist, but asking a woman a question about women, to me, sounds like it's sexist.
It's
but,
okay, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, Donald Trump's candidacy or viability going forward, they say, rests with women like you. Can he convince women to vote for him, in your opinion?
One of my favorite quotes from Donald Trump, I don't think I can fully say on air.
Okay, so we can just bleep out the bad parts.
All right, I'll bleep it.
Yeah, bleep it yourself.
He said he goes, it doesn't matter what the media says about you as long as you've got a young and beautiful piece of bleep by your side. And to me, somebody who speaks like that is coming nowhere near my vote. There are many, many, many reasons that I would not vote for Trump. But as far as him representing women, no way, no way. In the polls, Hillary is so far above him in that category.
Okay, let's turn to Rich again. Rich, I was disappointed as a registered Republican with Paul Ryan this week. He seemed like a rat, and to me, his non-endorsement is a ringing endorsement of Donald Trump.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Donald Trump could, now that he could essentially, if he could fundraise off of this. I mean, it's amazing. And now he has an opponent in his district, and there's actually a movement. Michelle Milken's part of it. She's going to campaign as a movement, essentially primary Paul Ryan, and he actually has a pretty formidable candidate. And I think you could potentially have the same scenario. Remember, you saw with Eric Cantor in 2014, where he was the majority leader. He was going to become the speaker when John Boehner retired. He lost in his own primary, and this really showcases the countervailing ideologies in the party. Paul Ryan, again, is a traditional conservative. He's a traditional free market conservative. He had a path for prosperity where he talks about partially privatizing entitlements, for example. He's a free trader. He's an interventionist. He supported the Iraq War. Donald Trump is different on all three of those issues. So the question for somebody like Paul Ryan is, can he essentially propitiate Trump supporters to the point that, and for his own political purposes, in his own primary, he could lose that primary unless he does some sort of a meeting with Donald Trump, some sort of a mea culpa, saying yes, Donald, we have a lot of disagreements, but Donald Trump is different than Hillary Clinton. That being said, there is a third-party movement. Bill Kristol, the editor of the Weekly Standard, is running it, and they're trying to get somebody like former Texas Governor Rick Perry to run. Then the question is, who does Paul Ryan endorse? My guess is he looked at his own personal, as a political entrepreneur, he looked at his own personal political standing and says, I support the party's nominee, Donald Trump, without saying anything positive about Donald Trump, other than maybe I support, he has a lot of business experience, but not go into issues specifically and worry about himself on the home front. Because I'm telling you, there really is a revolution in this country, and you're seeing a lot of establishment politicians, even at the level of House Majority Leader and Speaker of the House, essentially could lose their seats over this issue in the Republican Party. It really is an internecine blood fight in the Republican Party.
Okay, Alan, this is resonating a lot with you.
It is a blood fight, but I think we as insiders, political insiders and political experts, put too much emphasis on ideology. It's not about ideology. We may assess it as that, but what's really happening is you have a large group of Republican voters who feel they have been left out. They have been sold a bill by the Republican Party of no, not this time, never. And as they see it, things that have been argued as no or never by the Republican Party on social issues and on economic issues have actually come to happen. So they're very dissatisfied. They've been promised a bill of goods on all kinds of social issues, whether it's abortion, whether it's health care, whether it's gay rights, and they see the country moving in directions that they didn't agree with and that they were told would never happen. And so they're angry. They're angry at the establishment. It's not ideological. It's that what they were promised, which was no, never, this will never happen. Government shutdown has in fact happened. And so they are angry with an establishment party that has told them these things wouldn't happen, but it has. So they're angry.
Let's turn to Hillary Clinton. Good point, Alan. Talking about Hillary Clinton, she used a phrase over and over and over again the other day while talking about Donald Trump, and that was loose cannon. It seems like that's her talking point right now.
Yeah, so she's started a hashtag never Trump. So she's going after him right away. and she's just basically just going to go to core contingency, win those folks. New Theory publication goes towards millennials. That's our target group. She's going to probably win that demographic, which is really critical in the general election. And she's going to keep it, in terms of saying, hey, I have experience in the political space. This guy's a loose cannon. Things are really bad right now. We need to kind of corral things. But she's also going to probably perpetuate some of Obama's policies or keep them going. So it'll be interesting to see how she balances it out between keeping Obama's policies, but also painting him as a loose cannon who can't instill change.
Let's talk about style versus substance, Jackie. As a media professor, when I watch Hillary speak, she sounds so contrived. The other day, Donald Trump said, I'm playing the woman's card. Well, if appealing to women's issues is the women's card, Dale Megan. I mean, can you in 2016 be that rehearsed and that scripted and be viable against a man who is a loose cannon, who is unscripted?
Well, at least she's authentic, or she's telling the truth, and what she means is authentic. Donald Trump comes across as authentic, and that's why he is appealing to people, bottom line. Like Alan said, people are dissatisfied. He feeds them the red meat. I'll take care of you. I'm the superhero. And they believe him, while they shouldn't. He is running the biggest scam against the American people that we haven't seen since P.T. Barnum became mayor of Bridgeport. No, he is.
How so? Because I'm just out of curiosity.
Donald Trump looked at what the American people were crying for, and then he is feeding it to them.
Yeah, but that's politics, so.
That's politics, but he uses fear. He sets
That's
up.
politics.
That's politics.
Not to the extent that he's been doing it. He has named part of the populace as the enemy. And so he's bad that way. He's the guy that is trying to win over the people who want easy answers. Hillary might have, as they say, a strident voice. She sounds rehearsed, except when she gets angry, and then they put her down for a woman who's angry. Oh my God. What's going on here is that people want the real deal. And they want to see things get done. And the thinking people can see beyond that style and get to the substance. The people who are not that thinking, who are supporting Trump en masse, are the people who's going to lose out down the line.
I think, Alan, that Trump is going to be able to hobble together a coalition of Democrats who feel like they've been forgotten about and Republicans who feel like they've been forgotten about. We forget that there's a big section of Christian, white Democrats who are laborers, unionists, teachers, firefighters, who also feel disenfranchised by a president who's more interested in granting amnesty to criminals and making our bathrooms gender neutral than creating jobs.
Well, that's true, but we are a divided country, and there are many cross currents in the American political situation right now. I don't think Donald Trump has that much of a broader appeal beyond the Republican echo chamber. That is to say, he appeals to people who are angry that they see, as I said, all kinds of ethnic groups getting ahead of them if you're an angry white male. They see all kinds of economic groups getting ahead of them because you got laid off. So he appeals to an angry electorate, many of whom are Republicans. But the Democrats also appeal to people who are angry, but who appeal, or Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders appeal to people who believe that there are policies that should be enacted to change the situation. Donald Trump appeals to people who are just angry, but without any real solution to the problem. The Democrats appeal to people who are angry, but they lay out a whole set of proposals. So the question will people be listening to the proposals, or will people be listening only to the anger? And that remains to be seen.
Okay, let's get Rich Rubino in on the conversation. Bernie Sanders is still fighting on. Rich, early on, you predicted that he was going to be a tour de force of sorts, and he has proven to be that, even though he is the most unlikely presidential candidate I have ever seen. If Hillary Clinton cannot put away this old, crazy-looking man, is she a wounded candidate who can't put away anybody?
Well, first of all, I think the real divide in our nation is between those who watch news shows and those who watch the Kardashians. Because I'm telling you, I think that part of Donald Trump's appeal is he's getting a lot of people into the political process who knew him as on Celebrity Apprentice, knew him as a businessman, but have never followed politics, probably never voted. So I think that's the real danger for Hillary Clinton. In terms of the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, it is a rupture within the Democratic Party. It's very similar to what happened in '68 when Hubert Humphrey who was a supporter of the Vietnam War until he landed up in September 30th that year, announcing he would support a bombing halt. In Humphrey's case, he could not get a lot of the Eugene McCarthy supporters on his tent into his tent. Remember, McCarthy had been in opposition to the Vietnam War, and then finally, when he did come out, he said, "Well, I want to suffer and vote for Hubert Humphrey, so I asked my supporters to do so as well." I think that in Hillary Clinton's case, it's going to be really, it won't be hard for her to energize Bernie Sanders himself. I think Sanders has said that he'll support the nominee, but a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are going to say, I mean, you have those who are, blue collar Bernie Sanders supporters who are going to really have a lot of issues with him on trade, for example. But I think a lot of the young people particularly see Hillary Clinton in many respects as somebody from the old era, from the old order, as they see somebody as kind of an establishment person. I think it's going to be very hard, but Hillary Clinton, I think the way to do it is essentially to show pictures of Donald Trump, and then, remember Lyndon Johnson put away Barry Goldwater by essentially showing a picture of, a mushroom cloud and saying, these are the stakes, whether we're going to love each other. And, there was a point where Barry Goldwater, after he lost the California primary, was down by 59 points from Lyndon Johnson, for example. The way to beat Donald Trump, I think, is essentially just to scare people, to say that you're right, he is a loose cannon, and to get a lot of the Sanders supporters into her camp that way. It actually reminds me a little bit of '92 when Bill Clinton just could not put Jerry Brown away. He just, after Paul Tsongas had suspended his campaign, Jerry Brown has continued to run and run and run. And then by the time of the convention in '92, before he even made an endorsement, Jerry Brown gave a convention speech. And, he got probably more applause than Bill Clinton did because there was that liberal...
I got to wrap you there, Rich, because they're giving me the hook. But good points, and one man made a career out of giving a great convention speech, and that man, of course, was Barack Obama. Straight ahead on Fresh Outlook, politics corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. A look at the connection between politics and corruption after this.